On the aircraft carrier, the pilot picked up a football and placed it on the catapult of the fighter jet. He then quickly signaled the operator to ready the catapult. The operator pressed the switch and the catapult accelerated to 340 kilometers per hour. In an instant, the immense force sent the football crashing into the sky. Immediately after, a fighter jet rolled onto the runway. Under the direction of the ground crew, the jet was launched from the runway and flew toward the ceasefire zone to conduct aerial reconnaissance. At that time, the Bosnian war had just reached the ceasefire agreement. The jet only needed to follow the predetermined flight path to complete its mission. However, not long after the jet took off, the radar suddenly showed an abnormal situation in the ceasefire zone. According to the ceasefire agreement, the jet was prohibited from entering the zone, but the pilot disregarded the navigator's warning, turned around and flew over to investigate. The pilot then turned on the digital camera and indeed spotted a group of armed men hiding in the forest with a large number of weapons. The low-altitude reconnaissance by the fighter jet angered the armed men below, who immediately reported the situation to their superiors. Upon learning that the jet had been conducting unauthorized reconnaissance in the ceasefire zone, the superiors immediately ordered their men to fire missiles to intercept the jet. At the same time, the jet's radar detected the coming missiles. The pilot quickly maneuvered the jet to climb vertically and then flew rapidly to the right, but he still couldn't break the missile lock. As the jet was about to be hit, it released decoys, but they failed to detonate the missiles. The jet had to keep changing its flight direction. At that moment, the armed men below fired another missile. Faced with two missiles in hot pursuit, the jet had to climb vertically at a 90-degree angle. The pilot then jettisoned the auxiliary fuel tanks, using the shockwave from the explosion to successfully detonate one of the missiles. But in the next second, another missile suddenly flew straight toward the jet from the front. The jet didn't have time to evade, and the missile grazed the tail of the jet, causing it to lose control instantly. The jet was eventually cut in half by the returning missile. The pilot activated the ejection seat and ejected from the jet. He floated successfully, opening his parachute in midair. After jettisoning the ejection seat, the two men landed in the occupied area of the armed men. The navigator landed safely and immediately found the injured pilot. However, since they were in a valley with no signal, the navigator had to go to a higher place to use the radio to call for help. Meanwhile, the armed men discovered the wreckage of the jet and their superiors immediately ordered them to search for the pilot. Soon the armed men captured the injured pilot near the wreckage. After a brief interrogation, they shot and killed him on the spot. The navigator, who saw this from the top of the hill, screamed loudly, revealing her position. A life or death escape ensued.